The sign was old and weathered, nailed to a splintered post on the edge of a long-forgotten country road. No trespassing. Violators will be shot. I'd seen plenty of these signs before. They were usually nothing but empty threats, the kind of warnings angry farmers stuck on their fences to scare off teenagers and hunters. But this one felt different. Maybe it was the way the forest loomed beyond it, too still, too quiet, as if holding its breath. I stopped my truck on the gravel shoulder, killed the engine, and sat there for a long moment, staring at that sign. 56 years old, my knees not as strong as they used to be, but curiosity has always been my weakness. The last few months had been hell. Divorce hearings, money troubles, sleepless nights. I told myself I was just taking a drive to clear my head, but the longer I sat there, the more the sign felt like a dare. Trespassing. The word rattled around in my head. I climbed out, boots crunching on gravel, and ducked under the rusty barbed wire. The air changed as soon as I stepped into the trees. It got heavier, quieter. The usual forest sounds, birds, wind, were gone. All I heard was the distant hum of my own heartbeat. There was a faint trail, not an animal track, but something deliberate, cutting deeper into the woods. My curiosity overrode my better judgment, and I followed it. 10 minutes later, I stepped into a clearing. At first glance, it looked like the ruins of an old farm, a leaning barn, a collapsed shed, a house with one side caved in. But then I saw the cages, 6 of them, lined up like prison cells made of thick welded steel. They were tall and narrow, the kind that would force a man to stand upright if he was shoved inside. Something cold slid down my spine. The mud around the cages was disturbed, fresh footprints, boot prints too recent to be from long ago. I should have turned back right then, but I didn't. I approached the barn. Its doors were chained shut, but there was a gap in the slats wide enough to see through. Inside, hooks hung from the rafters, each holding something unrecognizable. Slabs of meat, some still dripping, others dried to dark jerky. Beneath them were piles of bones, human bones. The skull at the top of the nearest pile made that sickeningly clear. I stumbled back, gagging, nearly tripping over a rusted wheelbarrow. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. I spun around and saw a man stepping out of the shadows. He was tall, broad, wearing filthy overalls. His face was shadowed by a brimmed hat, but I could feel his stare like a physical thing. "You lost?" His voice was calm, almost polite, but it froze me to the spot. I was just... "You saw the sign," he said flatly. "I didn't mean any harm," I said, my hands half raised. "I'll go, right now." He took a step closer. "No, you won't." Something cold pressed against the back of my neck, the barrel of a shotgun. My stomach dropped. "Walk," the man in front said. I obeyed, heart slamming against my ribs. They led me past the cages to a pit I hadn't noticed before. The stench hit me first. Rot, blood, decay. The pit was filled with bones. I swallowed bile, fighting to stay upright. "You folks think you can come wander where you please," the man said, circling me. "But this is our land, our rules." "I won't tell anyone," I stammered. "I swear." He grinned, a flash of yellow teeth. "You're right, you won't." The man with the shotgun jabbed me toward one of the cages. Something in me snapped. I swung my elbow back as hard as I could, catching him in the ribs. The shotgun went off, the blast deafening, but I didn't wait. I ran. Branches whipped my face, tore at my clothes. Shouts rang out behind me, boots pounding the ground. Then another shot rang out, close enough to splinter the tree next to my head. I dropped low and crawled until I found a fallen log and ducked behind it, gasping for breath. Their voices echoed through the woods. "He went this way. Don't let him get to the road." My hands closed around something in the dirt, a rusted hatchet. I gripped it tight and waited, my pulse hammering in my ears. The first man appeared, scanning the ground. I didn't think. I just moved. I leapt from behind the log, swinging the hatchet with everything I had. It sank into his shoulder with a wet crack, dropping him to one knee. He roared, reaching for me, but I wrenched it free and ran again. Another shot boomed, branches exploding around me. But I kept going until I stumbled into another clearing. An old truck sat there, half buried in weeds. I slid underneath it, chest heaving as the second man emerged from the trees. "Dale?" he called, mocking. "You think you can run? You think you're different from the others?" He was close, too close. When he crouched to look under the truck, I swung the hatchet, catching him across the face. He screamed, dropping the shotgun. I scrambled out, grabbed the gun, and pointed it at him. "Back!" I said, shaking. He staggered back, blood streaming down his face. I pulled the trigger. The blast threw him against the barn wall. He slid down and didn't move. My ears rang, my arms shook, but I forced myself to run, to keep moving until I saw the road. My truck was still there. I jumped in, started it, and peeled out, my whole body shaking. I didn't stop until I reached the sheriff's station in the next town. I told them everything. The cages, the pit, the men, the barn. But when the deputies went back with me, the clearing was empty. No cages, no bones, no bodies, just an empty stretch of forest and a new sign nailed to a tree. Trespassers don't get second chances. I sold my house and moved 3 states away within the month. But a few weeks after the move, as I was walking out of the grocery store late at night, I saw him, the tall man, standing by the edge of the parking lot, half hidden under the glow of a streetlight. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched me. When a car passed between us, he was gone. Now every time I see a no trespassing sign, I feel that same chill in my gut, because I know somewhere out there someone is still watching, and next time I might not be so lucky. When I bought the cabin at the edge of Bowmore Forest, I thought I found a treasure. It was a 2-story house, all alone, with 6 acres of trees and grass. It cost less than a small apartment in Minneapolis. After my divorce, I was tired of city noise, car horns, loud voices, sirens. I wanted a quiet place to feel calm. The cabin looked old but strong. The walls were green wood, blending with the trees. The roof was pointy, good for snow. Inside, there was a big living room with a stone fireplace. The kitchen had old counters and a stove. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms with small windows facing the forest. The backyard had a porch with a swing. I drove there in my truck, the road bumpy with dirt and rocks. Trees stood tall on both sides. I unpacked food and clothes, sat on the porch with coffee, and felt happy. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe easy. But that didn't last. The first night I stayed, weird things happened. In the morning, I saw a half-empty water bottle on the kitchen counter. Water drops were on it, like it was cold. I was sure I didn't leave it there. I drank from a glass the night before. Then, in the back hallway, I found muddy boot prints on the floor. They went from the door to the stairs. Those weren't mine. My shoes were clean by the front door. Outside, near the porch, I saw a cigarette butt smashed in the dirt. It smelled like old smoke. I don't smoke. I quit years ago in the army. I felt uneasy, like someone was in my house. Maybe kids were playing tricks, or maybe someone was sneaking in. The forest was big, with lots of hiding spots. I drove to town, 20 miles away, to a hardware store. I bought new locks, strong ones with deadbolts, and a chain for the door. Back at the cabin, I worked hard, putting them on. The new locks clicked tight. "That'll fix it," I said. I felt safer. But things kept happening. Every time I came back, something was different. A big chair in the living room was moved, facing the door instead of the window. A kitchen drawer was open, forks and spoons mixed up. Once, I smelled men's cologne in my bedroom. Strong and cheap, not mine. It was strongest near the bed. It made me feel like a stranger in my own house. Who was coming in? How did they get past the locks? I checked everything before leaving, closing drawers, locking windows, but it didn't stop. I couldn't relax. At night, the house creaked, and every noise made me jump. Was it the wind or footsteps? During the day, I walked my land, looking for clues. Broken branches, trash, I found nothing. The forest felt like it was hiding secrets. I told my friend Adam, a big guy I've known since we were kids. "That's creepy, Jake," he said. "Maybe get a camera." But I didn't have money for that. Instead, I decided to stay at the cabin for a week, hiding quietly to catch the intruders. I didn't drive my truck. It's too loud. Adam dropped me off after sunset. The sky was pink and orange, trees dark against it. I had a backpack with food, water, a blanket, and my old army gun, a black pistol from my soldier days. "Be careful," Adam said. "Text if you need me." I nodded and walked to the cabin through the trees, stepping soft. I locked the doors and went upstairs, keeping lights off. I wasn't scared. I had been in worse spots in the army, like in Afghanistan. Or so I thought. The first night was quiet. I sat on the floor, peeking through the curtains. The forest was dark, just stars above. Owls hooted, wind blew, but no people. I ate a sandwich and tried to sleep. My mind kept thinking about what might happen. The second night was different. Around midnight, I heard voices, soft at first, like whispers in the trees, then louder. 3 men walked into my yard like they owned it. They didn't use flashlights, they knew the way. One was tall with a bald head. The others were shorter, one with a beard, one with a hood, hiding his face. My heart beat fast. I crouched by the window, barely breathing. They climbed the porch steps. I heard keys jingle. My keys? My stomach felt cold. The door opened, and they went inside. The floor creaked. A chair moved. Then I heard a girl crying, muffled, like she couldn't talk. She wasn't with them outside. Where did she come from? I grabbed my gun and sneaked to the stairs, looking through the railing. They dragged a girl into the living room. She was young, maybe a teenager with messy blonde hair. Tape covered her mouth, and her hands were tied with zip ties. Her eyes were big and scared, tears on her face. She had jeans and a torn hoodie, no shoes. I felt sick. The bald man dropped a bag on the floor. He pulled out more tape, rope, and a sharp knife that shone in the light. The other 2 laughed, a mean sound. I was scared, like in the army when things went bad. My hands shook. I thought fast. 3 of them, 1 of me. My gun had 6 bullets, no extras. If I shot, it was serious. I could call the police, but the phone signal was bad out here. The girl screamed through the tape. The bald man slapped her hard. The sound was loud, and she went quiet. I had to do something. I went to the bedroom, typed fast to Adam, "Call police. Bad guys in house. Kidnapped girl. Hurry." I sent it. I went back to the stairs, hiding low, waiting. My heart was loud in my ears. For 20 minutes, they argued. "We shouldn't have brought her here," the bearded guy said. "It's risky." "No one comes here," the bald man said. "We have time." Time for what? I wondered, my hand tight on the gun. Then it got worse. They started pulling at the girl's clothes, tearing them. She kicked, but they held her. I couldn't wait. I stepped out, pointed my gun, and shouted, "Let her go!" They froze for a second, staring at me. Then everything went wild. The bearded guy ran at me. I shot. Bang! He fell, blood on his shirt. The hooded guy hid behind the couch. The bald man pulled his knife. I shot again, missed, the bullet hitting the wall. I ducked as the knife flew past my head. The girl screamed, crawling away. I ran to her, pulled her up, and pushed her to the back door. "Run!" I yelled. She ran out, barefoot, into the dark trees. The bald man charged me. We fell hard, my breath gone. He punched my side, hard again. It hurt bad. I grabbed a piece of broken glass from the floor and stuck it in his arm. He yelled blood everywhere and fell off. I reached my gun. Bang! I shot without thinking. He stopped moving. The hooded guy ran out the front door into the night. I locked the door, hands shaking, and called Adam. No answer. Where was the girl? I ran outside, calling her. The wind was loud, trees swaying. No answer. I ran to the road, shouting until my throat hurt. Finally, I saw lights, Adam's truck. The girl was with him, shaking, her face dirty. She'd run to the road and waved him down. Adam called the police. Soon, deputies came, lights flashing. They found the 2 men, the knife, and the bag with rope and tape. The 3rd man was gone. They talked to me and the girl, Emily. She was 19, grabbed from a gas station. They took her to the hospital. The police said they'd watched the cabin. I left with Adam, still shaking, smelling blood. I haven't gone back. I might sell the cabin. I thought it was over. 2 days ago, I got a package in the mail, no name on it. Inside was my cabin key and a note in black marker. See you soon. The third man, he's still out there. I keep my gun close now, always looking around. The quiet I wanted is gone, and I'm scared it's not over. When I was a kid, I loved water. I could spend whole summers at the pool, my hair turning stiff with chlorine, my skin wrinkled and pale. But that was before my brother drowned. He was 8. I was 12. We were playing at the quarry, even though Mom told us not to. I heard him scream once, just once, and by the time I jumped in, all I saw was a swirl of bubbles where he'd been. They never found him. I've avoided deep water ever since. So when my best friend Paige begged me to come on this lake getaway weekend with her boyfriend and his brother, I said no. Then I said no again. Then finally, I gave in, mostly because Paige had been crying about how she thought her boyfriend Troy was cheating. She didn't want to be the only girl there. It's just a lake, she said as we drove down the 2-lane road to the cabin. You don't even have to swim. The cabin sat on the shore of a narrow, deep lake surrounded by pine trees that blocked the sun. The water looked black, like ink, and my stomach turned just looking at it. Inside, the cabin was small but cozy. Stone fireplace, plaid furniture, 2 bedrooms. Troy and his brother Luke had already been there a day. Luke was different, quiet. He stared too long when he looked at me. When I said hi, he just nodded and smiled like he knew something I didn't. The first night, they drank beer and played music on a speaker. Paige kept asking Troy if he was texting anyone. He got mad and left to take a walk. I went outside later to get some air and saw Luke standing on the dock staring at the water. You swim? He asked. I shook my head. You should, he said, smiling. This lake's special. Once you're in, it's hard to get out. Something about the way he said it made me go cold. The next day, they wanted to take the rowboat out. Paige begged me to come. Just sit in the boat, she said. I sat in the middle, hugging my life jacket. The boat rocked gently, but every time it tilted, my chest tightened. The lake was silent. No birds, no other boats, nothing. Just the sound of the oars cutting the water. Then Luke stopped rowing. This is the deepest part, he said. I looked over the side. The water was so dark it felt like staring into a bottomless hole. Luke grinned. Bet you've never been this far out before. I don't like water, I said quickly. He nodded, still grinning. That's good. Fear keeps you alive. Then he stood up too fast, and the boat lurched. Paige screamed. Sit down, I said, clutching the sides. But Luke didn't sit. He walked toward me, slow, like we were alone. Luke, what are you doing? Paige said. He crouched in front of me. Ever wonder what it feels like? What? I said. To stop fighting. Then he shoved me. I went backward over the side into the freezing black water. The shock stole my breath. I kicked hard, panicking, but the boat was too far above me now. I tried to scream, but water filled my mouth. I didn't even remember to open my eyes until something grabbed my ankle. I thought it was weeds, until I felt fingers. I thrashed and kicked, but whatever was holding me yanked hard, pulling me down. My lungs burned. I clawed at the water, desperate to go up, but the grip wouldn't let go. My vision went spotty. I thought, this is it. This is how I die, like my brother. Then suddenly, I shot upward, coughing and choking. Paige had grabbed my arm and was hauling me toward the boat. Luke was just sitting there, smiling. You're crazy, Paige screamed at him. She can swim, Luke said calmly. See, she's fine. But I wasn't fine. My throat hurt, my chest hurt, my whole body shook. We went back to shore, and I ran inside, locking the bathroom door. I sat on the floor, crying and shaking, until my stomach emptied into the toilet. When I came out, Paige was pacing. He says it was a joke, she said. That wasn't a joke, I said. Emily, he scares me, she whispered. I should have called the cops. I should have told Troy, but instead, I said we should leave. That's when we found out Luke had taken the car keys. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the cabin made my skin prickle. Around 2 a.m., I heard the back door open, soft footsteps on the floor, then the sound of the dock boards creaking. I got out of bed, moving slow, careful not to wake Paige. Through the window, I saw Luke sitting on the dock, his feet dangling in the water. Then he stood and turned to look at the cabin. Straight at me. I backed away from the window, heart hammering. When I looked again, he was gone. The next morning, Paige was gone too. Her bed was empty, her phone on the nightstand. I ran outside, calling her name. Nothing. Then I saw it, bare footprints leading down to the dock. And at the end of the dock, Paige's hoodie, wet and dripping. I screamed for Troy. He came running, half asleep. She's in the water, I cried. He dove in, splashing and shouting her name. Minutes passed. He came up empty, gasping. Luke appeared behind me. She went in on her own, he said softly. You liar, I screamed, but my voice cracked. Luke just smiled. The lake likes to keep things. Troy grabbed him by the shirt and punched him hard, knocking him to the dock. But Luke just laughed, blood running from his nose. You won't find her, he said. She's too deep. The sheriff came that afternoon. Divers searched for 6 hours. Nothing. They said maybe Paige got caught in the undertow. Maybe she hit her head. But I knew the truth. That night, Troy sat by the fire, staring into the flames. I sat by the window, staring at the dock. Luke was gone, no one knew where, and the lake was still. So still it looked like glass. Then, just as the moon came out, I saw something. Ripples. Then a head. Blonde hair slicked back, water running down her face. Paige. I ran outside, yelling her name. She didn't answer. She just stood in the water, chest deep, staring at me. Paige! I screamed, running down the dock, but when I got there, she wasn't there. Only ripples and something brushing against my ankle. I don't remember jumping in. I remember the cold. I remember the dark closing over my head. I remember hands, so many hands, grabbing me, pulling me down. I tried to kick, to fight, but it was like the water itself was holding me. My lungs burned. My vision went white. Then I saw a face. Paige. Her eyes wide, her mouth open, bubbles streaming out. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me deeper. I fought her, screaming underwater, but my scream was just more bubbles. The last thing I saw was the moon above, getting smaller and smaller until it was gone. They found me on the shore at dawn, coughing up water. Troy said he dragged me out, but he swore he never saw Paige. The police called it an accident. Luke disappeared. No one knows where he went. I haven't been near a lake since.